Cool. Well, it's really great to have you all here for this session. And as Daniel mentioned, we've got four amazing Nucleate alumni who've all taken their unique routes beyond school to really shape biotech and their life science ecosystem in different ways. So you're really in the right place if you're exploring different career paths or seeking inspiration or just want to listen to some cool people. And, and really, what we'll do today is do a deep dive into how Nucleate is exposed and maybe even helped in your journeys. And as always, if you have questions, do drop them in the Q&A chat and we'll address them at the end of the session. So as Daniel said, my name is Jay. I'm currently the EVP of Culture at Nucleate, and I'm streaming to you guys from Germany. And joining us, we've got Michael, Mandi, Jeff, and Shree, who have all been integral leaders of Nucleate and have since gone on to do some very exciting things. Thank you guys for joining us, and it's really great to have you here.
Excited to be with you.
Awesome. So to kick things off, we would love to get a short intro from all of our panelists. So let us know where you guys are streaming from, your previous role at Nucleate, and what you're up to now, and what's really exciting you about your work today as well. Michael, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Hey, everybody, it's an honor to be on this panel. Really amazing people. I feel honored to call my friends and colleagues. So I got involved with Nucleate a while back. I was fortunate to get to lead the organization, co-lead the organization with a bunch of great people, particularly co-president with Sammy Sassone. And then after Nucleate and after graduating my PhD, I started a company which is called Scale Medicine. And we're basically building virtual patient populations to simulate clinical trials and then develop our own new medicines for patients. Sure, we'll get into some of the details there later.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. Shree, you want to go up next?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Shree. I graduated from University of Michigan in 2024, where I actually led the Nucleate chapter of the Michigan chapter of Nucleate. As the managing director, I had the pleasure of working with Michael and the rest of the team here. So fun time. So excited to be back in Nucleate again. I am streaming in from Atlanta, but I am actually working in Boston as a consultant at Trinity Life Sciences, where I essentially work with teams to help pharma and our biotech clients address any questions they may have in terms of business. So some examples can be new product strategy or launch strategy or just like in general market research. So one thing that really excites me about my job is, so every day is very different. I could be talking to physicians or patients or just like thinking about ways to help our clients. So ultimately, it's really about enabling access to patients for these exciting therapies that pharma is always coming out with. So that really is very different from academia or like my academic life. So very exciting.
Super cool. Thank you. Jeff?
Hey, everyone. Glad to be joining you this morning and the honor to sit on this panel. My name is Jeff Knox. I'm an investor at Innospark Ventures. I graduated MIT in 2022, where I helped co-lead the Boston chapter opposite this guy named Oliver Dodd. We were in the phase of sort of helping to scale Nucleate at that time to what is now a global organization. So, we'll get into a little bit of our work again, I think, as the panel goes on, but glad to be here with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. And Mandi?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mandi Williams, and I graduated from Harvard Law School in 2023. While I was there, I got involved with the Harvard Biotech Club and eventually served as the founding executive vice president of finance whenever Nucleate spun out as its own nonprofit. And I had the privilege of working with everybody on this call throughout that process. Today, I continue to serve on Nucleate's board of directors, and I also work as a contract specialist at WashU in St. Louis. And in this role, I negotiate all kinds of research-related agreements with a particular focus on industry research collaborations. So I think we'll get into more of that a bit later, but I'm streaming in from Pittsburgh today, not St. Louis.
Nice. Thanks a lot, guys. So as we've seen, we've got a very diverse group here with, of course, the commonality that of Nucleate, letting you all cross paths doing what I imagine was a pretty formative time in terms of career decisions. So looking back, how do you feel your experiences Nucleate potentially shaped your trajectory when it comes to your careers? And it would be really great to hear from all of you on this.
Okay, I guess I can get started.
Please unmuted. Go for it.
Okay, I can get started. So when I came to grad school, I was very much focused on the academic track. I really just wanted to do a postdoc and then start my own lab. I really never thought about industry or biotech or anything that happens there. And in my third year, I think an undergrad just reached out to me saying, "Hey, do you want to do this Nucleate thing we're starting?" And I'm like, "Okay, sure. I have some time. I can do it." And honestly, Nucleate opened up a whole new universe for me about industry, pharma, founders, the energy that these founders bring. So everything was just like very thrilling and infectious for me that I decided I would like to be at that intersection of science and business. So that really started this journey of like figuring out what roles are available, especially for international students. So consulting was one of the things that really came up, and I really liked the dynamic nature of that. So Nucleate essentially was a stepping stone and an immersive experience for me in understanding what the business side of science looks like. So very pivotal.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say it was super important for me too. I did an MBA program at MIT, and I came into it. I was a life science consultant in my prior life, and I basically knew I wanted to work with younger companies, but didn't know exactly how. And Nucleate was a perfect opportunity for me to like sort of explore all the different ways of interacting with that like early stage life science ecosystem, and really gave me a good chance to see what were the pros and cons of all the different jobs and see what it actually looks like to do those jobs and talk to people who are currently doing them, and was certainly very important for me in helping to find my way to the right seat.
Great.
I can go next. I think it's hard for me to pick out just one or two ways that Nucleate helped me in my career trajectory, because it's really my experience on Nucleate's leadership team has shaped my career in just about every single possible way. But I agree with what the others have just mentioned, that the most important way was probably by giving me the opportunity to engage deeply with biotech while I was still in law school. Whenever I came into law school, I knew about intellectual property law. I had some other ideas about roles that might exist, but I really had no idea about all of the different ways that you could engage with biotech from this angle, which are numerous. And so Nucleate helped me to identify the specific problems that I want to focus on for the rest of my career now. And this really allowed me to be intentional about my education while I was still in law school and about my first couple roles after law school.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'd say, I mean, definitely echo Mandy's point about it's difficult to disentangle because it was so transformational, like literally in my life, but also my career choices, how I think about problem solving, how to build a large organization or try to scale and increase the reach and effectiveness of a large organization. It's just the kind of experience that you don't get in grad school. Like fundamentally, it's not even really in the cards. And so being able to get that through Nucleate is pretty incredible. I think concretely for what I'm currently doing, it gave me I think it shaped my worldview of drug development and helped me to focus on what I believe are some of the most important problems in drug development. And it shaped my network. I think my network grew probably 10 times, 100 times from what it was when I started. And like every single one of those people has been influential in what I'm currently doing. So in a very real sense, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing without having done this experience.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that insight. And, I think it's safe to say that during your time at Nucleate, you all very much embodied and strove towards this community-wide mission of empowering the next generation of biotech leaders. Now that each of you's gone onto their own road within this ecosystem, I'm really curious to hear about how you've redefined impact for yourself, if at all, and what is the main driving force for you in your current roles in terms of having an influence on this biotech ecosystem? Jeff?
I can lead off this one. I think that, hopefully one of the reasons that a lot of us are interested in this industry is because this is one of the few places where we are like really making concrete impact on lives at the end of the day. Like in some way and in different ways, a lot of us are sort of contributing to this whole process of like bringing new medicines that are going to help extend lives or improve the quality of lives. And I think that that's just a really special effort to be a part of. And so I think that, patient impact should be one big driver for all of us. I think that also sort of bringing forward new science and new knowledge. I think that, it's wonderful that, we have academia to let us explore in all these different places, but to really, scale the impact of a lot of different science, we need to bring it forward into the world. And I think I would argue that entrepreneurship is one of the best ways to do that. So those are a couple of things I think.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo what Jeff said about patient impact. As consultants, we are asked questions about, oh, which disease area should we go after? Which therapy modality should we go after? So at the end of the day, for me, it's really about the scale that we are able to deliver rather than my impact on individual projects. Like, yeah, maybe I did a great forecast model. Maybe we had a great market research team. But at the end of the day, the scale at which we can deliver or help our clients deliver their therapies to the patients, be it in terms of market access or at the level of the patient journey. So these early choices that they make about deciding the disease or any of those things really ripples across the entire patient population, affecting hundreds and thousands of patients. So for me, it's really about helping enable better outcomes at scale. And even if you're able to do a small part in it, I'm very happy with that.
Anything?
Yeah. How do we define impact? I think, I don't know. I mean, I think I ended up deciding that I wanted to do something that was as different as possible from the kind of therapeutic companies I'd seen in the past. I think maybe there's something about just seeing so many different kind of interesting drug discovery plays that made me react and say, I want to do it differently. And so I think I kind of want to show that it is possible to do it differently. And maybe therefore have like a ripple effect where people think about drug development in a different way and maybe speed things up, make it more efficient, bring better medicines to patients.
Amazing.
Similarly, I think impact on my end looks like using the law to really drive innovation and make it more efficient rather than stifle innovation or create problems for the people who are trying to innovate. And so in my current role, one concrete way that we look at this is just by measuring the number of collaboration and sponsored research agreements we get in place. We also look really closely at how quickly we can turn these agreements around and how effectively we can really find an outcome that meets the interest of both parties, because moving efficiency is really important at this stage for everybody. But what's even more important is getting the agreement right so that it doesn't create legal issues later on.
Yeah. No, thank you guys for sharing that. That's all super inspirational and, something everyone who's listening can also potentially, think about when they are thinking about their own career trajectories. And now actually I'd love to get a little bit more insight into your individual roles and do a little bit more of a deep dive there. So Michael, I know we've talked about your startup a little bit, and I still remember when we were chatting, I believe after the 2023 summer, where you were still in the phase of making this idea into a reality, and it's amazing to see where it's already gone to now. And I'm really curious to hear what's been the biggest surprise for you when transitioning from being an academic or indeed a co-president at Nucleate into entrepreneurship.
It's funny. So first, thing I have to respond to there is I'm definitely still in the making the idea a reality is the company. Probably will be for quite some time. Um, I also think maybe a more helpful reframe is like which things like did I expect to be true actually came to be true. Like it was more the exception. Kind of everything I thought was all wrong. Um, I thought I knew how to recruit people to a team. It turns out I knew a very specific kind of recruiting for a very specific kind of team, and some skills transferred, but a lot didn't. And I think recruiting to a startup is um, incredibly difficult in a way that is just different from recruiting to a lab or to an organization like Nucleate. So I guess like one piece of advice I give to anyone that's starting a company is to approach recruiting for your company as far and away the most important thing that you're going to do. And you have to get it right. It has to take all of your attention basically before you do anything else. Um, and I guess other stuff that turned out to be kind of a surprise. Um, I think I think anyone that is doing a company around data, I mean, this is a little bit more specific to what we're doing, but a lot of companies, a lot of biotech companies nowadays are based around some kind of data asset, generating data, interpreting data, whatever it is, right? And I think a similar level of just maniacal focus and respect on data quality goes a long way because there's just such a downstream um, kind of amplification of errors in the data. And so I'd say probably like recruiting and data. You think these are hard, you know that they're important, but they just dwarf everything else that you do.
Nice. And on the flip side, in terms of the leadership skills that you potentially gained throughout Nucleate, how's that been of value to you whilst you've been building out your own company?
I think Nucleate taught me to work with a very wide range of individuals and really get to know them and understand their motivations. Um, and I think that was helpful with the recruiting side. I mean, as I said, I still had to really grow a lot. Um, and um, I think that probably is the main thing. Like, how do you get people to work together who have different backgrounds and skill sets? Um, and the thing is, you can read a book about it. You can go to a class and kind of learn about a case study, different scenarios, but it's so experiential and it's so personal that you can only really truly learn by doing it. And I actually think in some ways, Nucleate is great because it is both that great simulation of what it is like when you're going in industry and you're working with diverse teams, brilliant people, some personalities involved. But at the same time, it's not just a simulation, it's actually real and you're having a real impact. So everyone really is that bought in. Um, and so I think that was probably the main takeaway.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Michael. Then maybe we move on to Shree. Shree, you, of course, from the life of a Nucleate leader, moved into life science consulting. So during your time in Nucleate, I'm sure you were exposed to a variety of different opportunities, ranging from things like VC, BD, and of course, consulting and entrepreneurship. So what in particular drew you to the consulting route?
Yeah, so I guess all of them definitely are still options for me, and I may still branch out to something else later. But I think after Nucleate, one of the main experiences which I really enjoyed was really talking to founders. So be it activator participants at Nucleate Michigan or just interacting with people at our conferences or the summit. It's really just like what I liked about talking to founders is they always know they have a certain particular problem that they want to solve, and that could be something that can lead to a breakthrough in their commercialization process or in their science or in just like getting their science out of the bench into the field. And so just like talking to them, I realized there are like several facets to the problems that founders face, and addressing those is really what is the barrier in those exciting therapies from reaching patients. So consulting really sort of helps me get to that in a more structured way, because that's basically what consultants are doing. Pharma companies or biotech companies are coming to us and saying, hey, this is our problem. But at the end of the day, we want this to reach patients. How do we circumvent this problem? How do we figure out access issues? How do we figure out patient journey for this particular therapy? So it just felt like a really good stepping stone for me in entering the biotech field, or like the industry side of things from academia. And so that experience of just like talking to founders really has helped me now as a consultant. I am sort of able to think about the problem more from the founder's perspective as well, and not just think about it as a consultant. And apart from that, I guess just working as part of a team, like Michael was saying, building this team is really important. And then collaboration across different work streams. So all of those things are really foundational when you're working as a consultant, and it's really about teamwork and management, and then also managing client expectations and then delivering on those expectations. So I think consulting was definitely the right choice for me, and it seemed like a natural transition after Nucleate and a PhD.
Amazing. And from your vantage point now of interacting with such a diverse group of clients ranging from biotech to pharma, what kind of unique insights do you think young leaders and founders would like to understand from the point of view you have?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I guess thinking more about like from big pharma perspective, right? The science is always not enough, or I guess breakthrough science is important, but that is not the only thing that will get you to patients. So what I mean by that is we routinely see a lot of great science, great scientific, great therapies fail or get shelved because a lot of the things in the pipeline were not thought about properly. So it could be maybe you didn't negotiate with payers early enough. Maybe you didn't address patient journey issues. You didn't figure out what the patient was trying to do, or like what the patient wanted. You didn't figure out what the physician is willing to do. Are they willing to switch to your therapy? So there are like a lot of those access questions that actually drive whether a therapy is successful or not, more than the science. So I would say for new founders, think about those things yesterday, right? Your science, I'm very sure your science is exciting, but if you don't have a strategy to get it to patients, it's not going to go to the patients.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing those insights. And then Mandi, you of course approached Nucleate from a different angle to the rest, which was whilst you were studying law. And during that time, I'm sure at Nucleate you interacted with a wide range of early stage biotech founders, researchers, and also importantly partners. So how has those interactions potentially shaped your understanding of research collaborations, which is something you do a lot of now?
Absolutely. I came away with a lot of takeaways, but I think first and foremost, I came away
Is Mandi breaking up?
with a real appreciation.
Is it just me? No.
Let me video off and see if that helps for a second.
Okay. Yeah, that's better. I can definitely hear you better now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been on calls all morning, and of course it just started getting patchy on the Wi-Fi, so apologies for that. But yeah, so in terms of my takeaways from engaging with these different stakeholders, I think the first one is that I came away with a real appreciation for how aligned different stakeholders actually are when it comes to biotech. Everyone, and I mean pretty much everyone, wants early stage innovation to succeed and advance towards benefiting patients. I think I also came away realizing how difficult it can be to effectively communicate across these different stakeholders, and the opportunity to see how
Mandy,
disalignment
unfortunately, I
with
think
its
you're
mission
still
alignment
breaking in and out a little bit.
can sometimes get lost in the complexities of contract negotiation. Trying to figure out my Wi-Fi.
All right, Mandy, we'll come back to you in a sec. I'm going to jump over to Jeff for a minute, so I'll come back to you in a minute if that's all right. So Jeff, jumping over to you. You, of course, had the pleasure of leading a Nucleate chapter and also running the activator with, a wide range of biotech, early stage biotech companies that are coming through. And in terms of engaging with these companies and understanding how they work, how has that potentially helped you get your foot in the VC door? And in terms of your day-to-day in work sourcing and evaluating companies?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like first what you described like kind of is the essence of my job. Like, VCs are out day to day to meet people working on exciting technology and to evaluate why it is exciting and different, and ideally get behind the best ones. And so, from the seat of a Nucleate chapter leader, that's exactly what you're doing and trying to recruit a great cohort and try and back them and help them succeed. So an awful lot of parallels between what the organization does and what someone sitting in a VC seat does. In terms of getting your foot in the door, I would say that I would give a lot of credit to Nucleate there too. I mean, if you talk to anyone about how you get a job in VC, you're not really going to get a straight or satisfying answer from very many people. It's going to sound like go on a lot of coffee dates and talk to a lot of people, and that's true to an extent. And there's things you can do. You can come with theses. You can read all the news and be prepared. But there isn't necessarily like an easy on ramp. But Nucleate was useful in sort of helping change the conversation I was able to have with the people who I wanted to be talking to. Instead of just saying like, "Hey, would you carve out some time to have coffee with me?" I got to have this conversation around like, "Hey, can you work with me to help these companies?" And would you join this panel? Being able to give something in that way, VCs like, you being able to make them look smart and giving them something to put on their LinkedIn. And like, I was able to do that. And that really, changed the way that I was able to interact with the folks I wanted to be talking to, and ultimately let me probably have more conversations and have more meaningful conversations.
Amazing. And I know this next question is slightly loaded, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Of course, one of the big thing that you do as part of VC work is think about the red flags and maybe green lights for different companies. And I'm just wondering, in terms of your experience as a Nucleate leader, did your perception of what those red flags and green lights were change, or did they stay the same when you switched over to being in a full-time VC?
I would say that it didn't necessarily change. I think that a lot of what, VCs look for, what, Nucleate leaders look for in trying to build their cohorts isn't necessarily going to surprise you. I think that it is helpful to get repetition seeing what good looks like though, and seeing what it looks like for, when you have a company in front of you that has like a lot of the pieces, but maybe not quite all of them. And so, if we think about what we're looking for, you're looking for technologies that are different and better. And ideally someone who can tell you the story of why a technology is different and better. Not just, I have this cool thing, but like, here's why it's cooler than the other things people have tried. And here's why, people haven't done this before now. So some different and better story. And then usually we're also looking for a little bit of an idea of like what you're going to do with it. Or at least sort of the direction of travel. So, these days, it's probably not a secret that a lot of people are gravitating toward more asset-based companies. And, in order to have an asset-based company, you need to have an idea of which indications you want to move toward and, exactly how you're going to do that. So even if you don't have exactly, the roadmap planned out perfectly, having an idea of where you're going is really helpful. And then I guess the last thing I would say is we'd like to hear a story around sort of like a milestone-based plan to get there. And so how a lot of venture capital works, especially in life sciences, is we raise some money to prove something so we can raise some more money. And we do this again and again until we finally get a drug on the market. And Shree helps us, make, the big bucks. But until you get there, like the steps, along the way are pretty concrete. And it's usually building some kind of data package that's going to be meaningful to some other group of people. And having an idea of who those people are and what that data package is even though, the, environment's fluid and it might change, is another thing that we look for. So those are some of the, things we were looking for. Again, I don't think it's necessarily different from the VC seat to the Nucleate leader seat, but always helpful to have more reps.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Mandi, we got you back? Maybe not. All right. But before we turn it over to audience questions, I would like to ask one final question for all of our panelists. So we've already talked about how your time at Nucleate and the leadership skills and the technical skills you developed have potentially shaped your growth beyond this organization. But of course, given Nucleate's global reach and the diversity of people that you've connected with, how has the network that you've built beyond your time, and especially as your time as a leader and then continuing that on as an alumni, potentially helped you in your day-to-day now?
I mean, the people involved with this organization are generally very high caliber in my experience. Like anyone who takes the time out of their PhD or other degree program to either do all of the things that the activator asks of you or to organize all the things that the activator asks of you is just generally a, very, high performing type of person. And so I think that, not everyone's necessarily going to go on to carry their company forward forever, but even if they don't, knowing someone was involved in this organization and had a significant role is always a green flag for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also want to say I've made some really good friends through Nucleate. Some of my best friends are from Nucleate. And funnily enough, this happened some time ago where one of my clients was somebody I met through Nucleate. So that was also very interesting. And that would definitely be my full circle moment. Like someone was asking because I met them through Nucleate. Now I see them join on this client call. So it was really funny. And just that goes to say, like how Jeff was saying, people at this organization really high caliber, and I'm so excited to see all the great things people here do, and to be connected with them is a pleasure.
Yeah, I've really actually pivoted my company. And so I think getting input from a lot of people I really respect on what's the right problem to work on, super important. Um, you don't just want to start a company to start a company. You want to start something that really drives you and also is really impactful, that you're the right person to solve. I think also, again, I'm going to come back to the whole like recruiting thing. Um, Great people tend to hang out with great people, and I've managed to recruit some really amazing people kind of through this network. And I suspect that will continue and strengthen in coming years, right? This network keeps on growing, people keep on progressing in their careers. So if you're going to do anything that involves recruiting anybody, which if you're doing something such as starting a company or maybe eventually starting your own fund, or maybe you just go somewhere where you need to be recruiting great people to help you do what you want to do. This is one of the world's best networks for kind of finding anyone in this industry.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll ask a couple of questions from the audience now. So, of course, all of you have had the opportunity to organize the activator in your respective regions. So, compared to being an activator participant, having organized the workshops and the mentor matchings and everything that goes on with the activator, what kind of learnings did you take away from that process?
So I think having organized it, you really learn how to do a lot of cold emailing. And I think it's a really useful skill to have that. Um, I think the rest of it is sort of fairly straightforward, right? It's like okay, you're getting to really hunker down and focus on logistics. I think if you're kind of a participant, you are a lot more focused on how do I commercialize this technology, and kind of less of how do I operationalize, how do I sort of set standard operating procedures, um, how do I recruit the right people, how do we go through cycles of recruiting a person and realizing they're not the right fit, put them on something else. These are like just reps you have to get in. And you just don't have the amount of you just don't have the same remit you don't have the same mandate if you are a participant, where you are also getting a very rich experience, but it's a different kind of experience.
Yeah, I agree. And this is also like part of you building your network as a leader trying to organize these events. I want to say, like Jeff, for example, I just randomly emailed him on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, will you be an expert for one of the events for Nucleate Michigan?" And that's how I know Jeff. So I've built a lot of my contacts by organizing these workshops for the teams throughout the year. So it is really valuable as a leader. It gives you an opportunity to like engage with people you may not, think about reaching out. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely helps you overcome that fear of rejection, to Michael's point. I guess if I were to compare them, I think it's mostly a breadth versus depth question. I think that if you're part of the cohort, you're going to get this experience of getting to think like really deeply about a problem and like live and breathe like one specific corner of the world in the way that a founder gets to. And I think that it's a really good way to test out whether that's the sort of thing that you might like to spend a whole lot of time doing, because if you dive in and take your company out into the world, that's exactly the experience you're going to have, maybe on steroids. I think on the other side of it, the leadership team gives you a good experience across looking at different technologies and trying to think what different types of teams need. I really enjoyed being in that position, trying to imagine like who is the perfect expert for these people to talk to, who's the one person who can help move them forward the most, and sort of different but also really interesting problem.
Amazing. And maybe one last final question to finish on. Do you guys have a favorite memory from your time at Nucleate that you're willing to share?
For me, it was definitely, I mean, no offense to the years 2024, 2025, and 2022, but I think it was probably summer 2023. The summit, we were in some random house and stayed up till this is like after all the events and panels and everything, cleanup. And I think we were just talking until like 3 or 4 a.m. And multiple really funny videos and people laughing nonstop for 30 seconds straight. I mean, just a really great time. I mean, it's like, and I was at that session that I also got a lot of great feedback on my startup ideas, and it was, I think to me that typifies what Nucleate is about, is having these really real connections with brilliant people that ultimately help you.
Yeah, I think that's definitely also a core memory for me and Michael. I think there's still memes coming out of that midnight session.
I'll name off another Nucleate Summit scene. The very first Nucleate Summit we ever put on was here in Boston at a venue called the Royale, which for those of you who've never been to town, is a nightclub basically. And we got there in the middle of the afternoon and instead filled it with like J&J and a bunch of biology grad students. And so it was a little bit of a juxtaposition. And we got John Maranganore up on stage, former Alnylam, who mentioned that it had been a long time since he had been in the Royale, and he didn't elaborate anymore on stage. But it was great, just sort of a great, again, convening of a whole bunch of really smart people getting together, to talk really passionately. And I think, put in sort of stark contrast to a lot of other biology events, which are take themselves a lot more seriously, maybe, why this organization is exciting and dynamic. So.
Yeah, I think my favorite is also the summit, but I only attended the one in San Diego. So yeah, like I've been to a lot of conferences before where we're just like Jeff is saying, formal attire, everybody's super serious, but here we're just out on the beach, wearing shorts, wearing sandals. And yeah, just like having some of those talks with founders, VCs. There was William Heath from Eli Lilly or Stephen Grant. Like we're just all just sitting there and then just chatting, whether it's about life, people are sharing their life stories, how they got to where they are. Yeah, it's definitely it was definitely very different from my experiences like in academia. And now that I've seen how it can be done, I honestly think people need to change the way conferences are run in general. But it really allows for a lot of connection and a lot of meaningful insights to be shared. And it's really one of my favorite things about Nucleate.
Yeah, that's super cool. So for everyone listening, as you've probably heard, our in-person summits are equally fun. So if you haven't had the opportunity to go to our in-person summit yet, we have them annually. Be sure to check it out for next year. So with that, I just want to say a big thank you to all of our panelists for joining us today and sharing their journeys and insights. And today's just a glimpse of the many opportunities and paths that Nucleate's leaders have taken. And as we've seen, there's no single way to make an impact in biotech. And this will continue to be a huge strength of Nucleate as our alumni community grows and expands into every corner of this ecosystem. And the best thing is all of these people are super giving and always are coming back to the Nucleate community to really support the next leaders that are coming through.